Hey everyone, it's Destin from the GigSalad Greenroom interviews, and we are running out of time for our 10,000 subscriber challenge. If you haven't already heard about it, I'm making a wager with all of our listeners to try and get 10,000 people to subscribe to our podcast by June 1st. If you guys can help us reach our goal, I will get Peace, Love, Gigs tattooed on my arm and record the whole thing to share with our audience. I'm terrified of needles, so it should be pretty good. Then, if you guys can really take us by surprise and help us reach 15,000 subscribers by June 1st, we'll let all of you pick the challenge for us instead. So leave a comment below, and on June 1st, if we meet our goal, we'll pick the very best of your submissions and include it in our next episode. We only have 4 weeks left, so like and share and subscribe and tell your friends whatever you can do to help get the word out. 10,000 subscribers before June 1st, let's make it happen. I'm Destin Harrison, along with Megan Frisbee, and you're listening to the GigSalad Greenroom interviews. Paul Scheer is just a pretty cool guy. He's talented, he's funny, he's creative, but I think what I like best about Paul is he just seems to do what he loves. In the late 90s, Paul joined the Upright Citizens Brigade, an improv comedy troupe that's included people like Amy Poehler, Donald Glover, Aubrey Plaza, and Aziz Ansari. A few years later, Paul and Aziz created a sketch comedy show for MTV called Human Giant. After that came the FX show The League, and now he appears as a Cattleman's Ranch employee named Mitch in the ABC sitcom Fresh Off the Boat. Paul's also made guest appearances in countless other shows and movies, written and produced all kinds of content, and created his own podcast, which is almost as cool as ours, called How Did This Get Made? So we're here with Paul Scheer. Paul, I don't even know how to describe your career other than you're that guy from that thing.
I'll take it. I am that guy from that thing. And I'm sometimes that guy from the other thing that's not me. Like, I'm not Rob Corddry from The Daily Show, and I'm not Dave Koechner, who is on that show Superior Donuts. But we all get confused for each other simply because we're three bald white men. So, there's a lot of, people just see bald white men. They don't see faces. So, but no, a lot of times, like, I'll be in an airport and someone will be like, I love you on The Daily Show. And I'll say, thank you. And then when people see Rob Corddry in the airport, they'll say, hey, I love you on The League. And he's like, thank you. We just agreed that we'll take each other's compliments, because once you start describing that you're not that person, that's just going to get very awkward. Well, actually, I'm not him. But then they're like, but I do know you from somewhere. Yeah. So they may not know what they have seen me from, and then will be adamant that they have never seen TV. That's the thing that always drives me like crazy. Like, well, I don't watch TV. I'm like, well, I know, but I think you probably saw me. No, I think you dated my sister. I'm like, I don't think so. I really think it's probably something on TV. Like, I've never seen it. I like when people get really adamant about how they don't watch TV, which is a pet peeve of mine too. It's like, what are you proving? Like, what, I don't understand. Like, I've never seen a TV. I don't even know what it is. Like, so, but that always is my favorite thing of people just being like, I've never seen it. Never seen anything. It's like, you've seen TV. Everybody has seen TV.
Yeah.
We have TVs in our pockets.
Well, that's the thing. Do they pull that? Like, I've never seen a TV. Now, Hulu, though.
Yeah, Hulu doesn't count, though, right? I mean, yeah. YouTube is not TV. YouTube is video.
The last thing I personally saw you on was, It was either Hulu or Netflix. It was Keith from Parks and Rec.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, that was a while ago. Yeah, I was on the second season of Parks and Rec. I filled in the hole. If people don't remember, but Parks and Rec started off like there was a giant pit in the middle of the town. Yeah. I was the person who filled in that pit. The crazy thing about that episode is it ends with me taking off in a speedboat out into the ocean. It was the most fun and also terrifying thing because no one could be in the speedboat with me. So I was like, I'm not a speedboat captain. So driving out into the Pacific, and then the director, I was nervous, and the director was like, that was great. Now do it funny. And I always remember that was like my favorite note I've ever gotten. I was like, I was frightened out of my mind. There was the real captain was hidden under the hidden underneath the bottom of the ship, so it looked like I was by myself. But that was a really fun little thing.
You've been in a little bit of everything. What's your favorite project that you've done so far?
Oh wow, that's an interesting question. They all have different things why I like them. I mean, obviously The League was a really fun experience because we got to do that for 7 years, and it was a great group of people, and it was just a really fun, creative experience. I think the first thing that I ever did was this sketch group with Aziz Ansari, Rob Hubel, and myself and this guy Jason Wallner called Human Giant. That was really fun because it was like we got to do our own sketch show, and no one gave us any notes. We got to basically do whatever we wanted, which culminated in us hosting MTV for 24 hours straight live, which was like amazing. But like if we're talking about like more specific, like small things, I think the dumbest and best thing I've ever gotten to do was I met with this company, and they said, do you have any ideas that TV would never do, but you really want to do it? Because we'll do that. And I was like, well, I'd like to recreate the Arsenio Hall show. And they're like, you got it. So I did this thing called the ArScheerio Paul show, where I recreated the Arsenio Hall show and then had like celebrity guests on to play different people, like Jordan Peele, the director of Get Out. He played Tupac Shakur. I had Seth Rogen as Gary Coleman. I had just the most insane grouping of people. Nick Kroll was Jean-Claude Van Damme. Jack McBrayer was Steven Seagal. So we did these like little recreations. We rebuilt the set, did the whole thing, and we did like a word for word like acting it out, which was really fun because those interviews were insane back then. Like people were saying things that they would never say on TV now. And then we did an improvised version of it. And then because of that, I got to go on the new Arsenio Hall show as ArScheerio Paul. So it was two Arsenios against each other. And that was probably a real highlight to kind of get to do Arsenio to Arsenio.
And I love too, you had like the mannerisms down, and you were almost more him than he was. He almost didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, when we were on that show, I don't think he knew what to make of me. I don't think he understood what I was, because at that one point I was like, hey man, keep up the good work and you'll be out here in Hollywood soon enough. I'm like, out in Hollywood? I'm like, I've already been working like pretty steadily for a while now. Live out here, but I think he thought I was like some YouTube kid like who just came on.
At GigSalad, we want to help you create unforgettable moments. Like that time when Patrick from San Jose was looking for a way to win back his ex-girlfriend. Patrick went to GigSalad.com and booked a mariachi band to follow his ex around in hopes that would win her back. We don't actually know how this worked out for him. There's plenty of fish, Patrick. Book something awesome at GigSalad.com.
GigSalad.
You're listening to the GigSalad Greenroom interviews.
I like this salad.
You mentioned about doing things that you can't do on air or can't do, a network television, but you can in streaming, and how some things are taboo here, but not taboo here. Yeah. Did you guys have any skits that got shot down?
Yeah, it was a Party Over Here, and that was an interesting experience because, I don't normally work that much in network television. I do a bunch of stuff in cable, and I've done a bunch of stuff in streaming and stuff like that. That was an interesting thing because we wanted to do certain things that the network wasn't 100% on board with. And that's not their fault. It's just sort of, Fox is a very prude network, like the main Fox. So whatever you're seeing there, that is like the primetime Fox. So, for example, you couldn't bleep anything. And, that's a pretty common thing. Like, if you curse, you can bleep it. Like, we didn't expect the curses to come on, but we expected that we could bleep. And then not only could we not bleep something, but we couldn't bleep it if you could guess the context of it. So if you were to say, like, bleep you could get the context of it, right? Mm-hmm. But if we were to say, like, bleep, 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 pig, bleep, 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 like if you had to kind of confuse the context, so then we were allowed to use bleeps. And it was nonstop battles on the phone with just the standards and practices. So our sketches were getting, like, slightly watered down, and kind of the greatest example of it was we had this sketch where it was like a ghost hunter style show. It was like a parody show about ghost hunters. And our ghost hunter came to your place, and instead of like trapping the ghost and getting it out of your house, she would have sex with the ghost. So she would go to your house, find the ghost, and then have sex with it. And they made us blur out the ghost. Now, if you think about that, blurring out something that was not there. She was fully clothed, and we had to blur out stuff. So at one point she was, and I don't know how what I can say on the show.
It's a podcast. Yeah, I know where you're going with this. I saw it.
She had to go down on a ghost, and they blurred it out, so it looked a million times worse.
It was so much more inappropriate.
It was so much more inappropriate, but that was the level of it. And then, so we had issues like that.
Can you tell everybody about Mother and Son Moving Company?
Oh my gosh, that's one of my favorites.
Such a funny sketch.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite sketches from Human Giant. It's funny. I guess we're in the 10-year anniversary of Human Giant, which is insane. I've just been getting a lot of emails about Human Giant stuff, which I haven't talked about in such a long time, and I'm forgetting all the things that we did on that show. And Mother Son was a sketch that we did with Linda Cardellini, who you know from like Freaks and Geeks and ER and a bunch of other stuff. But the idea was there's like that. I don't even know if it's an old wives' tale, but the theory that a car fell on a woman's son and she had this superhuman strength and she picked up the car and like saved her son, And so we were like, oh, that would be a funny idea for a sketch. What if this mother saved her son from an accident like this and realized, oh, whenever anything falls on my son, I get superhuman strength. So why don't I start a moving company where she'd have to drop a heavy object on her son to then pick it up and then carry it off. So the whole sketch, and that, by the way, the kid in that sketch is from the kid from The Middle, who has become he's the main kid on the show The Middle. So the idea was she does this. She drops the piano on her son, she carries the piano out. She drops a refrigerator on son, carries it out. Then, and part of the moving process, a bookcase falls on top of me, and I'm like, please help me. And she tries to lift it up, and she's like, I'm sorry, I just don't have it for you. You're not my son. And I was like, why don't you adopt me? And so then we bring in a lawyer, and we sign all this paperwork, and she adopts me, and she's like, all right. And then she basically says, you know what? I guess my love will never be as strong for my adopted son as it is for my real son. And that was the end of the sketch. So a pretty dark ending, which definitely infuriated a few people, and rightly so. But I mean, that's fine, But yeah, so that was that sketch, Mother Son Moving Company, and that was one where we got a lot of feedback too. In Standards and Practices, they were like, well, you can't say that a mother will never love their adopted child as much as they love their real child. And our showrunner at the time, this guy Tom Giannis, a really funny guy who's worked on Mr. Show and Saturday Night Live, he said, this is actually a very important sketch to me because this is actually based on my life. And the Standards and Practices person like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I was adopted, and I never felt like my parents actually loved me. And then the Standards and Practices person said, oh my God, I was adopted too. That's why I didn't want this to air. She's like, but now this is your story. We have to air it. He's like, thank you. Meanwhile, Tom was never adopted. He just lied to get the thing on the air. And that is part of the reason why Standards and Practices is all about what your gut is feeling. So if you can argue your way out of it, you can do it. So that's how that sketch got on the air.
I love that story. I don't want to encourage that. I don't want to applaud you for that. But I love that happened.
I know. It's amazing. Well, here's the thing, too. Like, as I'm older now and stuff like that, and I have children, like, it's definitely not like a point of view that I want to be like. I don't stand by it as a philosophy. But in sketch, I feel like everything's got to kind of not. You be like, it's not. There's nothing sacred in all this stuff. You got to make fun of everything, and it's fine.
And how do you deal with people coming back at you with?
You kind of ignore it. I think like back then it was easier. Now it's harder. I think it's like back then we had like an MTV.com like a message board. I occasionally will see like whatever Donald Trump tweets. If you just look at the responses, I think you got a certain level of fame and success. You have to be like, I'm never gonna look at these. I will just be in a hole, right. For the rest of my life. I'll be cut down to the core.
Is there anything that you feel like you personally can't joke about? Like you remember being offended by this, or you feel like this is just too taboo, or is there anything that's, because you said a second ago, nothing's sacred, but is there stuff that other than just what's politically correct at the time, or
I'm trying to think of it. I feel like I don't know. I don't think I've been offended by much. I think I have sensitivities that have changed, but like that. But I don't think I've ever been like offended. Like, how dare you? Yeah, I don't think so. Like, but I could tell you, like when I first watched that movie, The Arrival, with Amy Adams, and the first couple minutes of this, no spoiler alert, because the first couple minutes basically detail like Amy Adams dealing with her daughter getting this diagnosis of like terminal diagnosis and then dying. And I was like, I gotta leave. I can't watch this. Like, and I stayed through, and it was a beautiful movie. But like that, like kid stuff now definitely like triggers an emotional thing in me. Whereas I would still do a sketch like Shutterbugs, which we did. I have no problem with that. Like, as long as you're treating the kids fine, I have no problem with that. But I to watch things, it will definitely like different things pull at my heartstrings in a different way. But yeah, I still would make kids run a prison like we did in Human Giant. Like, I have no problem with that.
And you have kids now, right?
I do. I have 2 kids. I have about a 3-year-old and about an 8-month-old. They're both not that. That's why I say about. They're they're closest to that. I don't
somewhere
want to be
between 5 and 10.
I don't want to be one of those people like they're 29 weeks old.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, none of that. I think the reason why you say the weeks a lot of the times when you first have a kid is because you're amazed that you're getting through it. Like, I used to be like, they're 15 weeks. That means I'm 15. I'm like, it's like prison time. Like, I'm marking it on the wall. And then after, like, then you get to a point where like, all right, yeah, now they're just a kid. Like the second kid, I was like, I think he's 8 months.
So back to UCB,
Yeah.
Upright Citizens Brigade.
Yeah.
It's been a huge part of your career so far.
Yes.
You still do that, right?
I do. So it's pretty great. So I still do a show there every Wednesday night called Facebook, where we take an audience member's Facebook page. We look at their pictures and their comments and everything, then we improvise scenes based on that. And that show is the kind of the same group that has been performing together since we were in New York on Saturday nights at 10 o'clock. It's just, I guess we've been doing it for maybe, like 12 years, like of just even that show. But that show is like Jack McBrayer and Rob Riggle and Seth Morris and Owen Burke and Rob Hubel and Charlie Sanders. It's a great, really fun group.
I love that show because people don't realize what they're putting on social media until you have it up on a screen and you're making fun of it.
Yeah.
And then everybody's like, oh my gosh, I said that?
Well, it's crazy. It's an interesting thing, right? Because when we were doing a show in New York, it was very easy to talk to people because people were, I don't know, there is something about New Yorkers that is very different than people from LA. I mean, there's a million people to 20-minute stand-up act on that. But they're like, but there's a different energy coming from them. And in LA, people were a little bit more guarded. We were finding that. Like, you couldn't talk about them. They wanted to be perceived in a certain way, and so what we kind of figured out was, how can we get people from LA to really like talk about themselves? Well, if we put them on stage with their Facebook profile, like you said, you don't realize what you've put up there until you're forced to be accountable for it. Like, you may have posted like 10 pictures from the night that you got super drunk, but you forgot about that because it was like 6 months ago. But if I'm going through it, I'm finding it. I'm going boom, 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 boom. Talk to me about this. And it's a conversation starter. In a weird way, it's kind of like a first date for me because I do the interviews all the time. So it's sort of like I'm able to look there and find out stuff from people that they wouldn't readily admit, which is really, we find out some really interesting stuff. And people, their defenses go down because it's already up. It's already out there. They've already released it. So to release it in front of this audience doesn't feel as bad. Like, they probably would never have talked about the time that they did blank or blank, but because now there's visual proof or they wrote about it, then they kind of feel like they have to. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting.
I want to do one last thing before we wrap up here.
Okay.
In the similar style of the Facebook interview, we went through everything we could find on your Twitter page.
Oh, my gosh.
And we have some Paul Scheer Twitter highlights here.
Oh, my gosh.
So
well, this is embarrassing for me. All right.
For sake of time, we'll try not to spend too long on any one of them.
Right.
But if you could just give a comment on your own tweets.
Okay.
You follow?
Yeah, I get it.
All right. So most recently, Springfield, Missouri. Where should I eat and should I see the world's largest fork? Did you see it?
I didn't. I got in at 10 o'clock at night, so I have to get an Uber out to go check out that fork. Should I check out the fork?
You know,
It's a little anticlimactic.
Yeah. Just a big fork? All right.
For the sake of Springfield tourism, I don't want to say no.
Got it.
But for the
Are
sake
people
of
coming-
your time, I
are
don't
peop-
want to say yes.
Got it. I hear you. So, like, how far away is the fork?
It's from this point, from GigSalad's headquarters, it's probably 15 minutes.
Okay.
It's on the like way south side of town.
Got it, okay.
And we're on the north side of Springfield. So, I mean, it's a big fork. Here's another one. It says, as Pitbull once told me, you weren't at a real party last night if cameras were allowed to capture any part of it.
Yes. Well, yes. Well, Pitbull never told me anything, but there, like, I feel like, why did I write that? It's funny because I feel like people are so intent on taking pictures of themselves having a good time or at a really cool party. And I'm like, well, then you're not, like, I don't ever take a picture when I'm, like, the best times I've ever had, I'm not, like, whipping out, like, a party time. Like, you know, like, I'm not talking about, like, my kid, like, running in a field. I'll definitely take out my camera then. But, like, you know, like, if, like, I'm at a really fun party, I'm not like, oh, I need to capture this, like, on my phone. And I feel like sometimes you'll just, like, look through an Instagram on Saturday night and be like, so much best party ever, best party. I'm like, it's not. If you thought to, like, do that, then you are not partying. You're not in it. You're not in the I don't know that. So that's my take on that.
And how many takes did it take for that perfect
it's gonna
party
be a little
picture?
lighting and like,
Yeah.
what are you getting? Like, yeah.
All right, here's another one. You said I had Obama prank call my grandma on at Howard Stern.
Yes,
That happened?
that happened. I have it on my phone. Yeah, I mean, I didn't have. It wasn't real Barack Obama. But I did have a Barack Obama impersonator call my very racist grandmother, who is very anti-Obama, and it was a prank, like, long in the making. Basically, the idea was, I know my grandma hates Barack Obama, like, with a passion. So I had told her, hey, I'm going to be in New York next week. And I knew I was going to do this prank call. I was going to be in New York next week working with Barack Obama on this fundraiser. And she's like, oh, don't mention my name. Already perfect, right? So I gave it like a week. And then I told my mom, who lives close to my grandma, I was like, tell grandma that I'm doing this thing with Barack Obama. I just wanted to get it, like, in the ether. Like, you know, like, because it's like, if I just called her with Barack Obama, it would feel unbelievable. But I kind of walked it back a little bit, like at least 2 weeks. My mom's like, oh, yeah, he's going to do this thing with Barack Obama. So then I call my grandma. I'm like, hey, I need to ask you a question. And I set up this very convoluted thing. But I said, so I'm doing this fundraiser for Barack Obama. She's like, oh, please don't. You know, she's already upset. And I was like, but I can only donate $200. That's the max that I can donate. I said, so I'm donating $200 in my mom's name. I'm going to donate $200 in your name. And then tomorrow morning on the Today Show, where I'm going to go out there and say my whole family is Barack Obama supporters, and I'm going to lay her like just getting her, like, riled up. I was like, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. And then as she's freaking out about that, I go, oh, Grandma, look, Barack Obama's here. You want to talk to him? And she's like, no. And then I gave the phone to the Barack Obama guy. And then my grandma had a very interesting conversation with him where he started flirting with her. And it was, and she was yelling at him. And one thing that was really funny about it was she was not impressed. Like, she was like, did not want to talk to him right out of the gate. Like, she believes, and to this day, she still believes she talked to Barack Obama. So she was like, she's like, Barack, I do not want to speak to you right now. And I was like, oh, wow. It was like pretty intense.
She's probably, granted, it wasn't Obama, but she's probably the only person that's ever said that.
Oh,
I'm sorry, Barack.
absolutely.
I don't want to speak to you right now.
Like, my grandmother, like, did not think this was not, like, there was, like, she was like, I believe this is Barack Obama, and I am not interested.
So did you ever tell her it was a prank?
Nope.
Or did she, oh, no.
No, I figured by the time I could figure out how I could, like, reveal it to her, I was like, it's fine. Because then she'd have anxiety, like, it played out on the air, or like, oh, why was it for? So, and now it's like kind of the best gift that I give my family. I just send them, like, the WAV file of it, like, so everyone can hear it. Yeah.
If you decide to tell her, just have her listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
Record her reaction, and then we'll air it later on.
Perfect. I will definitely do that.
All right, we'll do one more here. You said, when I was Amazon shopping, did I buy myself a gift, have them wrap it, and did I leave it under the tree for myself?
Yes.
Sure, and I'm proud of that.
I did.
True story?
That is a true story. I was doing a lot of Christmas shopping. I was like, I want this. I'll gift wrap it and send it under the tree. And it was nice because it guaranteed that there was one thing under there that I definitely wanted.
That's smart. Everybody should do that.
It was a great, it was nice because, it's, I used to be a big mall shopper, and now, I do a lot more Amazon shopping, and you're getting everybody else gifts, and you're looking around, and you're like, oh, I would like that. Why not? Why not Springs? It's the equivalent of getting a Cinnabon when you're shopping in a mall. You're like, I treat myself right now. I've just done some hard work of shopping. So yeah, I'm very, I was very pleased with that thing, and no one asked who that gift was from. It was the best part of it. No one asked. It was just, it was there. I got it. Great. That's awesome.
So you opened it around other people.
Yeah, with all the other Christmas gifts on Christmas morning, yeah.
And what did you say? Did you just pick it up and you're like, oh, thank you?
Sometimes there's not a melee, but there's a little bit of just everyone's opening their own gifts, and and no one's like I'm never really interrogating them. Who gave that to you? Why? It's sort of you get your own thing. Oh, that's nice. And if you're in the because we live in LA, my family lives in New York, so we get gifts sent to our house throughout that month. As everyone's so. There's a bunch of gifts under the tree. We're not opening them with the people who gave them to us. So we have my wife's sister and my brother-in-law there, and our kids. So if you're not one of those people who gave it to us, who cares? I'm like, oh, thank you to so and so. And I was coy about it. I was, this is great. Look at this. Oh wow, that's so cool. No one asked who gave it to me. Yeah.
I like that you acted excited about it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because
This is great.
open my own gift.
Do you remember what you got yourself?
Yeah, I got myself. I mean, it's nothing even that great, but it was it was right after Rogue One came out, and I've been really loving those Star Wars concept books. They have all the artist drawings of the inspirations and where they went, and it's just kind of a good big coffee table book that I like. So I was like, oh, that would be a fun thing to kind of look at, and it's just again, it's one of those books that it's nice to have on a shelf, and every now and then be like, oh, look at that. So yeah, they did a good job with it.
Did you write yourself a thank you note?
I did not. I should have. I should have sent myself a thank you note. That would go to the next level.
How do you know you got it?
That's the truth. I don't know. I mean, I heard that I got it, and I really liked it. I actually will listen to this podcast, and I'll know that I definitely got it.
That's the problem with the generation these days. So ungrateful. Paul Scheer, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
Our thanks to Paul Scheer for joining us, and if you want to hear more, be sure to subscribe to our podcast, the GigSalad Greenroom Interviews, and Paul's podcast called How Did This Get Made? Also, if you think of someone else who you want to hear us interview, be sure to leave a comment for us. We'd love to hear from you. For everyone here in the GigSalad Greenroom, I'm Destin Harrison. Thanks for listening.